Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Swagel, for being here today. We appreciate the time and all the Congressional Budget Office does to help facilitate the work we do here in Congress. But frankly, the CBO has fallen short in recent years on some of its work. And I hope that after today's conversation, you feel emboldened to actually address some of the needed changes to make sure that you continue to address and support Congress over the years to come. Obviously, CBO plays an important role in our lawmaking process. In order to address issues, members of Congress depend on organizations like CBO to assist in legislation. And accurate budgeting and economic analysis and accurate projections are essential tools that help us craft legislation and weigh how we vote. One of the key things that I always look at in terms of forecasting is making sure we have small variations between the forecasted amount and the actual amount. Whether the forecasting error, which there is some because it's difficult to do, but whether the error is on the high side or the low side, as long as it's a small variation between the actual and the forecasted, we'll have the best opportunity to have the best results. And with our debt the way it is now at $34 trillion, obviously that analysis is important. And with the debt increasing over the last year by over $2.6 trillion, it means we're now spending $85,000 each second that's being increased to the national debt. And it's not sustainable, and we've got to be able to make those spending decisions in that with the best information we have available. And so that's the focus that I want to talk a little bit about. One of the things was mentioned, and one of the things that's really important, and I want to highlight this here, is that when the TCJA, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, was implemented, part of the discussion and part of the estimate was that there would be a loss in revenue. And the number, I think one of the numbers thrown around was about $1.5 trillion over the 10-year window. And just to highlight now, if I look at what the revenue projections that CBO made after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed versus what the revenue has come in from 2018 to 2023, actually we've already collected $1 trillion more than what was projected. And if the next 2 years before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Acts expire continues on at the same rate as the last couple of years, it will more than pay for that $1.5 trillion. So that's one of those things as we make decisions about tax cuts or about other things. I mean, something like this that shows that the Trump tax cuts paid for themselves over that time period from 2018 to 2025. We need that accurate information. And so one of the things I wanted to ask is, what kind of ideas are you looking at or plans that you're looking at to how to revise what CBO does to make sure that we have greater accuracy in budgeting or assessing key pieces of legislation, and how do we compare that with other models like Penn Wharton or the University of Chicago and their differences in projections?
No, thank you, and I agree with the importance of what you said. One key area that I'm pushing on is our ability to do dynamic analysis, to get those relationships between changes in tax policy and the economy, and then the feedbacks to revenue. We've done it in the past. We did it with the 2017 Tax Act, but we haven't, and we've done a few other little things, but I'm looking at what major legislation could we make sure that we're in position to do. And so tax is one, immigration is another, and obviously CBO has no opinion on what the right immigration legislation is, but I want to make sure that we're in position that if there is, we would be ready to say, what's the effect on the economy, what's the effect on, the dynamic effect for whatever legislation comes forward.
Yeah. What kind of comparison or analysis do you do today of actuals versus what you're forecasted? I mean, do you actually sit down at the end of the year or the end of the quarter and come back and look and say, well, this worked, this didn't, and how do we adjust that or tweak that and I know, kind of a scorecard yourself?
No, that's right. So we do that in two ways. One is on the account level, that generally twice or sometimes 3 times a year. Lately it's been twice just as the press of business. Every analyst sits down with managers and with me, and we go through line by line, okay? SNAP benefits, it was higher, and here's why, whatever, every line. So on the micro level, then we look at the overall. And so that's the $1 trillion miss. That came from our report at the end of last year, going at the big picture level of the miss that we had.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, my time's expired, and obviously it's an important issue. We want to make sure we get good, accurate information to help us make those decisions.
Absolutely.
I yield back.